This is the LSP update from the North Yorkshire Safeguarding Children Partnership for April 2023. From the 1st of April 2023, the main customer service line for the new North Yorkshire Council has changed. If you require any services from the local authority or if you wish to make a referral, you should now use the number 0300 131 2131. This will replace the old 01609 780 780 number, and we request that all partners please update their references to this number. If you require the emergency duties team, they can also be contacted on 0300 131 2131, and the contact number for the professional resolutions line will remain the same as 01609 535 072. The following slide provides a number of pieces of practice guidance. There is updated standards and criteria and the missing from home and care protocol. There is new practice guidance for unborn babies, pre-birth guidance, and also Safer Sleep Day 1, a professional's guide. And there is also further guidance in relation to child abuse linked to faith or belief, including witchcraft. The multi-agency child exploitation practice guidance has also been updated. In terms of social media, the NYSCP's YouTube channel has been rebranded and developed. This is because we've now been able to name our channel, and that is youtube.com/@NYSCP. Due to the requirements for the social media, we now have a new circular logo for the channel, and that will also appear on Twitter and on Facebook as well. But our normal logo will be on all other publications. Our podcast channel has been updated. Anchor FM has now become part of Spotify.com, and the address on the screen will allow you to be able to access our podcasts in the future. In terms of the MACE update, work is continuing on our cross-partnership data set, linking data from the Children and Family Service alongside police data and analysis. Quarter 3 on the report shows an increase of 12 young people classed as at risk of exploitation from quarter 2. It also highlighted a significant increase from quarter 2 in young people who were exploited and known to be at risk of exploitation. This link has further actions around working with schools to increase attendance at meetings. Data also shows increases in young people who are reported missing and links to exploitation. Our MACE Level 2 chairing arrangements continue to be shared between the police and specialist social workers. However, due to additional investment, there has been an agreement for the role of a child exploitation and contextual safeguarding officer who will lead in the chairing arrangements for MACE Level 2 meetings, as well as support with the chairing arrangements for the NRM. The post has proven to be very popular with an exceedingly strong field of applicants. Throughout the 6 months of the pilot chairing, we have had 771 attendees at the Level 2 meetings from schools, police, health services, fire services, children's and family service, youth and voluntary services, as well as army, commissioned services, housing services, and many more. We want attendance to continue to build, especially with those partners linked to community services or those linked with small businesses, so we can continue to gather information to lead the disruption of exploitation in places and spaces young people spend their time. Please get in contact if you require any further information regarding attendance at MACE Level 2 meetings. We are also planning on holding some locality face-to-face events in the summer, and we will share details with partners when they are released. Police have shared additional updates in relation to the investment of 6 new PC posts focusing on child exploitation, as well as a pilot for a new disruptive tool for exploitation. Similar to a child abduction warning notice, the child criminal exploitation warning notice will act as a cease and desist for perpetrators. March saw the annual Child Exploitation Awareness Day on the 18th. To mark this, a partnership briefing pack was shared with key messages and social media assets. Alongside this, the NYSCP e-bulletin had a focus on child exploitation messages and updates from partners. We also had a member of the PFCC Youth Commission share a specially made short exploring exploitation and mate crime with those who have a disability. See the image on the slide. This video can be seen on our YouTube channel in shorts, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We are proud to share as part of our bulletin in March that since its launch last June, the new Be Aware Knowledge Hub has had over 17,000 site views. This site is regularly reviewed and updated, and following links with schools' PSHE forums, a section has now been added linking lesson plans and resources and PSHE sessions, as well as a resource shared by the National Working Group around exploitation in sports settings. We have had reports in various MACE locality meetings around the use of THC, psychoactive substances in cannabis, and possibly spice. Interestingly, this is also something that is being picked up as a national trend, with information shared from St Giles discussing the evolving nature of criminal exploitation and the links to e-cigarettes and vapes. This is being monitored through the Emergency Drug Trends Group for North Yorkshire and the City of York, with information and guidance for partners being compiled. Locality mapping meetings are also in place in some areas to gain a fuller picture from partners as to the links of vaping and other harmful substances in exploitation. The ask is that partners share this theme with colleagues, and any information and intelligence is shared with the Partnership Information Sharing Form so that we can get a fuller picture of the current situation in North Yorkshire. If you want to talk to Catherine about any further information in relation to MACE, please email her using the email address on screen. We have a number of upcoming masterclasses in the next couple of months. On the 20th of April, we've got the Growing Up in North Yorkshire survey results. This is one of the largest surveys done in the county and represents the views of children and young people within various different year groups within schools. On the 3rd of May 2023, there is a Counter-Terrorism Update Masterclass. And then on the 4th of May, there is the Early Years Masterclass. This is an evening session. All of these are available at book on NYES now. For more information, please visit our training page. Can we ask that on completion of a masterclass and any other courses, will you please provide feedback via the NYES link that will be sent to you after the training session? If you have missed any of our masterclasses, you can view them on our YouTube channel. Finally, this page provides a summary of all of the key contacts. There is our website, safeguardingchildren.co.uk, our Twitter feed, twitter.com/NYSCP1, our Facebook page, facebook.com/NYSCP1, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@NYSCP1, and our podcast, which is podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/North Yorkshire Safeguarding Children Partnership.
We have recently updated our policy in relation to persons in a position of trust, otherwise known as PIPOT. The updated policy is available on our website, and to go along with the policy, we have a 1-minute guide that has been produced and also a podcast that has been produced in partnership with the North Yorkshire Safeguarding Children Partnership on managing allegations against staff and persons in a position of trust. All resources can be found at the web link on this slide. Safeguarding Week 2023 will take place between the 19th and 23rd of June. The theme will be Safeguarding is Everybody's Business, and we'll be looking at a wide range of topics across adults, children's and young people and community safety partnership in our areas. We will be pulling together a schedule of events so that people can book onto the online webinars, and we will be looking to include the activity that is happening in local areas, including face-to-face sessions within the local safeguarding partnerships, and the planning group will be in touch shortly with the LSPs as to how you can do this and get your information onto the schedule. In terms of North Yorkshire Safeguarding Adults Board topics, we're looking at drug use and alcohol dependency with input from our public health colleagues and from North Yorkshire Horizons about their delivery service that they can use to support people especially during the cost of living crisis. We're also going to revisit multiple disadvantages with our colleagues in mental health. And also in line with the cost of living crisis, we're going to look at scams and financial abuse, and particularly what people need to look out for, how they can report this if they feel they've been a victim of a scam or financial abuse, and the top tips and toolkits that are available. We'll be looking at sexual health and women's health with colleagues in public health, and we will have a presentation on suicide prevention from our partners in public health and the picture for suicide prevention in North Yorkshire, and we'll also be joined by Papyrus, who will be talking to us about the training offer available for professionals and for people in their personal lives. And finally, we will be looking at migrant health, again with colleagues in public health, as this links in very closely with our local areas and the work that is going on through the Modern Slavery Partnership. Communications, including email banners, backgrounds, etc., and our comms through our corporate communications teams for you to share and get the message out, will be shared shortly, so everything will be shared with you in a timely way. We really need the support of the local safeguarding partnerships to help us deliver a Safeguarding Week, particularly within our local areas and communities. So thank you in advance for supporting the campaign. As people struggle to pay their energy bills or have issues with their energy supply, referrals to Warm and Well in North Yorkshire can be made. If you are able to call the service, then you can call the Citizens Advice North Yorkshire Advice Line on free phone 0808 278 7900. Alternatively, you can make a referral on behalf of someone with their consent or for yourself by continuing to the referral form that is available on the website. Please note that the service is currently experiencing very high demand for support. However, please persevere, as the organisation appreciates that people will be turning to this support, particularly during the cost of living crisis. We ask that you share this information and the link to the referral service throughout your communities, organisations and with those most in need. Thank you. As many people face the outcome of the cost of living crisis, there are a number of support services that are available, and we ask that these are shared throughout communities and organisations, especially for those who are most at risk and in need. There is support from the Citizens Advice Bureau in North Yorkshire, as well as National Citizens Advice, the Warm and Well Service in North Yorkshire. There's a list of resources on the North Yorkshire County Council website, and there's information on the Community First Yorkshire website to help those communities with the cost of living. Unfortunately, because of the times that we're living in, there is a risk that people will be targeted for financial scams. Therefore, Friends Against Scams, in partnership with the National Trading Standards, have pulled together a scam alert which keeps you up to date with the latest scams and financial issues that are facing people. You can get updates at the web link on this slide, or you can sign up for the online newsletter which will give you information. The North Yorkshire Safeguarding Adults Board team will also make sure that partners and communities are aware of scams that are happening in North Yorkshire. Thank you. On the 1st of April 2023, the main service line for the new North Yorkshire Council changed. The new number is now 0300 131 2131 and will replace the old 01609 780 780 number. So this means now that all contacts need to go through the new telephone number, and this includes any out-of-hours contact for the emergency duty team. The updated details regarding reporting a safeguarding concern in North Yorkshire have been updated on our North Yorkshire Safeguarding Adults Board website. We are currently in the process of updating all of our digital resources and information to reflect the changes, including our leaflets and keeping safe guides. These now have the new telephone number on, so we're asking that partners and LSP members do not use existing resources that you may have, as this has the old telephone number on. Please can you share this message to your across your organisations and within communities, and update any existing contact details that you may have. Just for assurance, the new number will be for all main customer communication going forward, and currently, however, no current numbers will be switched off until there is confidence that they are not required, and this means that if an individual rings a legacy phone number, their call will be answered. However, we are encouraging, for best practice, that we get into the habit of using the new 0300 131 2131 telephone number. Thank you. This slide gives an overview of some of the areas of work that the North Yorkshire Safeguarding Adults Board will be carrying out over the next quarter and want to make the LSPs aware of. So we will be publishing our Safeguarding Adult Review in respect of James in the early stages of Q1, as the recommendations were accepted by the board at its meeting in March. We will be undertaking action planning of the recommendations with colleagues in the North Yorkshire Safeguarding Children's Partnership, and a further update will be provided in due course. We will be launching the joint multi-agency policy and procedure website in North Yorkshire along with colleagues across the consortium. This website will be managed by Tri-X, and it will contain our existing multi-agency policy and procedures for safeguarding. There will be training sessions coming up shortly at the beginning of Q1, and we will be sending out more details for professionals to attend these. We will also be setting the new North Yorkshire Safeguarding Adults Board strategic priorities, and again these will be shared with the LSPs with an understanding of how you can help to support the delivery of these within your local areas. And finally, don't forget that we've got our Safeguarding Week 2023 campaign taking place in June, where I know that as well as the overarching presentations and webinars, there will also be lots of local involvement from the LSPs. Thank you. We have lots of resources that are available, such as our 1-minute guides, keeping safe resources, links to training and courses, and links to our NYSCP procedures. You can also keep up to date with the NYSCP by following our latest news page on our website, following us on Twitter, and also visiting the NYSCP website. Thank you.
Welcome to the Domestic Abuse Local Safeguarding Partnership Update for April 2023. My name is Alan Westcott and I'm a Domestic Abuse Community Safety Officer working for North Yorkshire Council. This is a preview of the presentation. I will be covering the Domestic Abuse Local Partnership Board development. We'll talk about safe accommodation work streams, our current work that we've got ongoing, and our consideration around next phase. I'll also be covering MATAC as the chair of the steering group. I'll talk about the development of that board, performance, and the assurance statement update in more detail on that slide. And I will then cover the recommissioning of our services for domestic abuse in the terms of accommodation, community-based services and perpetrator programs. So partnership board development. As you may or may not know, for North Yorkshire we now have in place an independent chair who is a lady called Cheryl Henry Leach, who has a considerable background in domestic abuse and safeguarding and is now fully in place as our independent chair and taking the board development forward through her knowledge and skills that she's acquired nationally. Membership of the board has developed and grown. We have military representation now. We have representation from our buy and for service provider, Penny Taylor, who is the lead for Halo services for marginalised communities. She's working with North Yorkshire, City of York and the OPFCC in providing services for some of our marginalised communities. We also have a different feel and structure to the local partnership board as we develop. So we've looked to replicate how the children's and adults reports feed into their boards, and now going forward from April we will have a domestic abuse report that's been completed by myself and supported by Sarah Arnott from the OPFCC's office. This month has been completed about 15 pages of information, and is really a one-stop shop about how domestic abuse is developing locally in North Yorkshire and across the national landscape in terms of comms and messages, etc. So that's something that we're looking to develop, and we'll see how that goes down with partners at the Domestic Abuse Local Partnership Board when we have that in April. We will also focus quite heavily on survivor voice and case studies, and these case studies are taken from real victims who are feeding into or certainly being part of our service or clients in our service for IDAS. So these may be victims who have experienced services from the accommodation, the refuge. This will be those that are being supported within the community by IDAS. These will be people that may be young perpetrators through the Respect service. These may also be adult perpetrators through the Foundation Positive Choices programme. So we take a broad theme of case studies across many different services, and these are survivors' views and thoughts on how the services supported them through the completion of case studies that are undertaken by domestic abuse practitioners, workers. And I think it's something that's really starting to help us shape some of our learning from their experiences as we move forward. And this is well, not necessarily a small part, but a considerable part of the work we're doing to really amplify the experience so that it feeds into our service and then shapes our strategy going forward. We're also inviting the Survivor Advisory Board now. So these are survivors and victims of domestic abuse that sit with and are supported by IDAS, but are now invited to our local partnership board. And a view will be that we want to work very closely with survivors to shape our service and to co-produce our domestic abuse policies and strategies going forward. So this is fairly early stages for us at the local partnership board and for services within domestic abuse, but something that we in our safe accommodation strategy really want to progress in terms of learning from survivors and victims and making sure that they are at the centre of how we do business. I think the other thing around the board that the chair really wants to push forward is that we get work done through using that board as a launch point for activity. So we really want to start to know what is working well within that board, what's not working well, so the board can then have a role in developing better practice and learning. And this is already taken shape through the use of task and finish groups to develop some national best practice, certainly around DVDS. And also we've used task and finish groups in between these boards to look at how we can support young people around their mental health, and we've been working very closely with CAMS to develop better practice and a clearer understanding of roles, which has been really helpful thus far. So that's the partnership board development. I'm going to move on to safe accommodation work streams, and I wanted to talk about one current work stream that we've got that's coming to a conclusion. So you'll see there we've got the strategic needs assessment and the wider system review. So these are two pieces of work that have been significant in terms of how we're developing our services going forward. So the strategic needs assessment has now been completed, and the report from Safe Lives, who were our provider for this alongside York, City of York Council. So Safe Lives have completed the needs assessment, and that report has now been circulated initially within the Domestic Abuse Local Partnership Board for further comment, and that will be a subject of discussion at our local partnership board in April. The review or the needs assessment itself has culminated in around 25 recommendations from Safe Lives, and these are a whole host of themes really. So we talk about housing and homelessness support, training for operatives that work within that arena around domestic abuse. It talks about board development in terms of child advocacy as being a required member, which is missing currently from our board. It talks about data. It talks about some of the gaps in our data, certainly around disability and some of our marginalised communities. It talks about children and support for children within safe accommodation. So there are a whole host of themes. It talks about MARAC as well in terms of the data and the number of children that are being raised in MARAC and then reflected within children's services. So there is a number of recommendations that we will now start to work through with the partnership board at York, and those that are urgent and important to take forward, and those that we've already actually doing some work for. So that's a separate piece of work, but we will start to pull an action log together to chart our progress going forward over the next 12 months against that needs assessment. The second part of that current work stream is the wider system review that will culminate in a full day presentation from Safe Lives in June on the 7th in West offices in York. So this is a joint event with the City of York, who we've jointly commissioned this piece of work with. So this will be a real broad view about how the whole system, health, policing, local authorities, commission services come together to support victims of domestic abuse. A really exciting opportunity to see how we are currently operating and some of our gaps, and how we can work collectively to kind of close some of that work off. The next piece of work is multi-agency domestic abuse training, which has been circulated many times across the partnership boards, and this is for professionals to raise their awareness around domestic abuse. We have 10 modules in place for that, ranging from elder abuse, working with young people, signs and indicators, and working with some of our marginalised communities around DA. These are very much in demand courses, and the link to these courses to get staff on board is held centrally with IDAS on their website. But if you'd like to find out more, please email me directly and I can send you those links to you and your teams. The next piece of work around the current work stream is Horton Pilot. This is a Gypsy Roma traveller community support officer that we've now commissioned through Horton, who are gateway managing 4 sites in North Yorkshire. So this is a lady that is working across 4 sites in a community support role, but with IDVA and ISVA skills. So she's an IDVA currently, she's been qualified as an IDVA, working towards her ISVA qualification. This is a lady that is building trust in a trauma-informed way on those sites, but with a skill set around domestic abuse. This is already proving really valuable and an insight, and I'm working with Helen and her line management to see how that role's developing. But early signs are really exciting, really challenging, but you know, it's really showing that there is a need for some support within those communities in North Yorkshire. It is 4 sites at the moment, because that's what Horton Gateway manage. So that's at Thirsk, Stokesley, Carlton and Burn, so the top and the bottom of the county. But again, been in place since September 22, so we are sort of 7 months into that pilot, which is a 2-year process for funding supported by the North Yorkshire Council. The next work stream that we have is a thing called DAHA. Some of you may have heard me speak about this previously, but DAHA is a Domestic Abuse Housing Alliance accreditation scheme. So this is a national programme with Standing Together, the only one of its kind in the UK, which many councils are on board with, and essentially it really is like a quality stamp for best practice around supporting victims and survivors in housing. So this really looks at providing training for all housing staff, from call takers up into those that are actually going into properties, to do maintenance work, so that there is a real understanding of signs and indicators of domestic abuse. So we have that kind of really early indication that where something's not right, our staff are fully trained and know what the next steps are to raise a concern. That's one element. The other elements is having real clear policies and processes in place, having an intersectionality approach to safe housing and supporting victims and survivors from all different backgrounds. So this is going to be a real, it's going to be a couple of year process for us to then start to look at whether we are up to accreditation standard for that membership. But something again that we will look to as a single council going forward with our housing options teams, homelessness teams, etc. across the different areas of North Yorkshire. Now, what we're considering for next phase, and obviously needs to be agreed through our governance arrangements, is we are looking at, because there's such a big proportion of work around some of the current work streams needed for training. For example, DAHA, we need to look at training over 600 staff in housing related awareness around domestic abuse. So we are considering creating a training post within our learning teams, training and learning teams, to take that forward and give us some sustainability so that we don't keep having to buy in short-term training and raising awareness with providers. I think the budgetary element for that, the finance for that, is far more beneficial to have an existing training post for us to then look to move to having some mandatory wider understanding of DA across the council for those forward facing roles. We're also looking at having an engagement survivor lead officer that may be twinned with the comms plan and engagement coordinator post. So we're looking at really developing an understanding of a survivor's voice across all the local areas of, the districts and boroughs and old money, if you like, around North Yorkshire, to kind of really understand the voice and listen to the voice of victims, and having a key post in place to really amplify that. And then having that role sitting on our local partnership board to be that voice, to be that ambassador for victims, so that we've got one true voice, and it looks at all those victims, not just those that we know, but those actually that are really complex, that have really complex needs and support, that we can actually then taper our service and processes so that we have parity for all, and that we have an understanding of what's happening across all the different communities, whether those are, marginalised communities, Eastern European, LGBTQ, so that we can really build an understanding of what our service needs to look like going forward. And is that part of a comms and planning role combined, or is that too much due to our geography? This is something we're just looking at the moment, whether that's one or two roles that we want to create going forward, because we recognise that actually we really could do better in terms of messages, strategic to operational, and getting those messages out into rural and urban communities in key locations. So we want to understand what the best way to do that is. We're also considering housing advocates. These are embedded domestic abuse specialists within housing and homeless options teams. We're not completely clear on whether that is a floating support in the community or whether this is embedded into the teams only. So this is something that we're also looking at. We are looking also to support services that are currently being commissioned for counselling for children and young people who are now in their own right victims of domestic abuse under the Act. We're also looking and considering whether we can support other health service providers around children and mental health support, because we know that we see young people seeking support within refuge and dispersed accommodation, trying to access specialist support for young people, experiencing difficulty in terms of waiting times and reaching thresholds for service. So it's understanding whether there is capacity to create some additional funding to support those young people experiencing trauma in safe accommodation. So moving on to the next part of the presentation, we have steering group development around MARAC and MATAC. So as a chair of the steering group, we have worked really tirelessly to build a broad group of people from leadership roles to sit on this steering group to start to shape how our MARAC and MATAC process will look. Now we know that MARAC is our highest risk victims and MATAC looks at our serial perpetrators of domestic abuse. So victim and perpetrator element coming together. How do we as a steering group shape best practice for those operational meetings and driving attendance and engagement and that kind of shared learning and problem solving that we really need to support around MARAC and MATAC going forward. So at the last meeting back in January, really good attendance from health, really good attendance from local authorities, community safety, policing, children's service, adult services. We really had a broad spectrum of professionals there and a fantastic conversation about how we can look to develop MARAC and MATAC going forward. Our performance is something that we've worked on as well. So our MARAC performance will start, well, not start, it already has. The MARAC chair and the MATAC chair will create a narrative around how they see the operational effectiveness of those local MARAC and MATAC meetings. The engagement of those members of staff from agencies attending, are they comfortable with the sharing of information? Are they engaged and understand the people they're representing and presenting? And then do they actually take part in the safety planning and tactical options that will help support the chair make decisions about how we safeguard those highest risk victims and those prolific perpetrators? So the MARAC chair is a real key element. Case studies is another way in which we can understand the impact of how effective MARAC and MATAC has been. So we now have a couple of case studies for our next meeting in April, our steering group, to kind of look at how effective MARAC has been. Demographic data, again, something that came out of our needs assessment around MARAC. We have a lack of data around disability. We are developing our demographic data in terms of ethnicity. So this is a moving beast, if you like, really. We are working towards developing far greater understanding of those communities and individuals that come through MARAC so that we can really make sure that this is a real open process and it not detracts from any individuals. Attendance, again, we have an assurance statement that we've been asked. We've asked our agencies to complete in terms of their commitment. So we have scaled an assurance statement for partners around what is their commitment to MARAC. First of all, this is just for MARAC. So we have gone out to 25 different agencies to ask them to complete a statement of attendance, ranging from 100% down to, we're not prepared to attend MARAC. Essentially, we really have a broad return and response, and we'll just cover that in this next slide. So you can see there 25 responses and a real broad mix of agencies that are saying what their attendance looks like. So this is from 100% down to 5, which is other attendance, and this is around the other really covered the need for, we will attend, but dependent on urgent action, activity arising, etc. So a real broad spectrum of attendance around MARAC. And then finally, just conscious of time, recommissioning. We are recommissioning all our IDAS services, our accommodation, our community-based services, and our perpetrator work. This is a intensive recommissioning process that will be concluded around August to September this year, where we will look to appoint a provider. Currently, we know we have IDAS that provide our accommodation and community-based service, and Foundation that look to provide our perpetrator element of programs to change behaviour. This is a significant piece of work I'm involved in, along with other partners across the OPFCC and City of York, and we will know or have a clearer picture around that around August and September time for appointment in April 2024. Thank you ever so much for listening.